Don't let these common mistakes ruin your trip to Utah's national parks.
We're Matt and Cheryl, and we live in Utah and have visited each of these parks several times and made plenty of mistakes of our own.
And the first mistake is rushing through it. So there's 5 national parks in Utah. Each one is worthy of at least one full day. So it actually is possible to rush through the parks in 5 days and just do a day at each park. But on our last time that we did this, I added in another day, a 6th day. And I was so glad we did because we had our kids with us and we stayed at a cool place in Escalante, Utah called Slot Canyons Inn. And it happened to be this bed and breakfast that was a total discovery for us. The owner was just a complete delight. And what was really nice is that it gave us time to just recuperate a little bit. We slept in that day and we didn't have to kind of rush off to the next thing. It actually gave us a chance to get to know the owner of the B&B. Honestly, I would recommend this. In the middle of your trip, stay at Slot Canyons Inn. We get nothing from her. We paid our own way. It's just a great experience that we had that we want to share with you. So that was pretty nice. And it also gave us a chance to hit some of the lesser known state parks along the way. So I would say 6 days is a decent time. Of course, you could do more. If you're going to do less, you might feel a little rushed and a little tired by the end.
Our next mistake is wanting to stay at one place to see all 5 national parks. One of the reasons why this trip can be a little bit grueling is that the most efficient way to do this is to change locations between parks, because otherwise you will be backtracking a lot. And so when we visited all 5 of these national parks, that's exactly what we did. We stayed in St. George, we stayed in Bryce, we stayed at Escalante, and then we stayed in Green River to hit Moab, like Moab, Canyonlands, and Arches. And even though we were switching from night to night, it enabled us to see more of the park and spend more of our time playing.
Now, we actually help a lot of people travel out here to the West, and one of the things I get a lot of times is people want to have a home base, or they want to backtrack to their place a lot. And my biggest tip, honestly, is to change locations as you go, because the West is so big. There's no reason to backtrack 2 hours or whatever to your hotel. Like, just move your location to the next night. I know it's a lot of change, and a lot of people don't like that, but we're really spread out here in the West, and it's really a better way to go. Okay, the next thing is not driving Route 12. So this is actually the route the route, however you want to say it, between Bryce Canyon National Park and Capitol Reef National Park. If you put it in Google Maps, there's a faster way to get from one to the next. However, the most scenic way and the most amazing way is called Scenic Byway Route 12. And it is actually an all-American road, which means that it is an event, a thing in and of itself. It's really just an amazing drive to do just on its own right. You actually get up on this section called the Hog's Back, where it's just straight drop-offs on either side. It might be a little scary for you if you're scared of heights. But a lot of people say they white knuckle that section. But it is really an amazing, amazing drive through the Red Rock of southern Utah.
And we have lots of resources on our website, we'reintherockies.com, if you're interested in planning a trip, including our trip itinerary for Utah. Now, the next mistake that people make when they come to Utah is thinking that all 5 of our national parks look the same. Yes, these are all Red Rock parks, but I assure you, if you drive through each of these parks, you will be amazed at how they change. When you go to Zion, you are going to see towering red rock canyons, 1,000, 2,000 feet up. They're huge with the beautiful Virgin River running through it. You move on to Bryce, and now you're in hoodoo country with these cool, like, little rock formations that are just jutting out of the ground. Bryce is so unique and amazing. Then you keep heading, I guess, which way you're heading? South?
You're going east.
Okay. Okay. Then you head east, and now you're in Capitol Reef, which has fruta. This was a little oasis in the middle of the desert where pioneers built fruit orchards, and those fruit orchards are still there, and you can go eat pie and do hikes, and oh my gosh, so cool. And then you keep heading even further east, and now you're in Moab, the gateway town to Arches and Canyonlands. And even those 2 parks that are close together are different. Arches is, shocker, full of arches.
They call this the Grand Staircase Country because this is all layers. Like, all the Red Rock, you're going to see the layers as you drive through, and all the way down to the Grand Canyon. So, like, Bryce is the top layer, Zion is the next layer, Grand Canyon is the bottom layer. And so you're just going to get a look at this incredible geologic variety as you drive through these parks and around this region. It's really cool. Okay, next one is missing out on stargazing. So if you're not from some of these remote parts in the West, you might not have clear skies. You might have too much light pollution where you live. And so when you get out here, so much of southern Utah is just really remote, where it's just clear skies, especially at night where you can just see all the stars. This is kind of normal to us, but we have heard from a lot of people who this is one of the main things they're coming out for, and one of the things they're most excited to see because they don't get to see that often. And so you're going to have lots of opportunities to see the stars at night.
One experience our family has done is Bryce Canyon does a star program. I think some of the other national parks may do that, but the one we've done is the one at Bryce Canyon. And it was so neat. The ranger took us out. We had to cover our flashlights with some red so that it didn't mess up everyone's vision. And then she used a laser pointer to talk to us about the constellations and the planets and the things that we were seeing. And we really enjoyed that. And it was a unique experience. A lot of times when you go travel to a national park, the sun goes down and the fun stops. But that's not the case here because you've got the desert night skies to look at. All right, the next thing to not miss is fry sauce. Okay, this is a Utah delicacy. Well, not delicacy at all. You can get it at any fast food restaurant, but it's ketchup and mayonnaise mixed together, and you just need to try it. You might hate it, but you might love it, and you can't say you've fully experienced Utah until you've tried fry sauce.
Heinz is making their own fry sauce now called Mayo Chup, if you've heard of that.
We are disappointed in the name.
No, you don't use it's fry sauce. Okay?
Yeah. Next up is skipping the state parks. Utah has 44 state parks, and they're all wonderful, but there are actually a few really notable ones that are right by the national parks that you will visit. And one thing we really like about visiting these state parks is that national parks have national parks crowds. But when you get into these state parks, you're still seeing some beautiful scenery, and it's a great chance to catch your breath.
So Zion National Park is close to St. George, Utah, which has two pretty cool state parks. One is called Snow Canyon, named after an early pioneer, not the white snow stuff. It's a red rock park, and it's nice to bike through or to just kind of scramble up on the petrified sand dunes. There's another park called Unlock State Park that is a reservoir. It's a dam. And when they release the water, it's really beautiful. Like people flock over there to get their pictures, like wedding photos. It's kind of cool actually to see all the people that get their professional photos done. It's really beautiful with the water running down the red rock.
Next is Dead Horse State Park. This is by Arches and Canyonlands. This is one of the prettiest viewpoints you can ever see. It just goes on forever. And I mean, oh, we love it. We love Dead Horse State Park.
Yeah, I think what we love more, though, is Goblin Valley State Park. This is kind of by Capitol Reef National Park. Goblin Valley is so fun, especially if you have kids, because you go there and it's just open. It's like there's no trail. You just walk around through these little formations that look like goblins. And we like to play kind of a game of hide and seek there with our kids. It's just really cool to walk around and explore. But Cheryl's favorite park is Kodachrome State Park.
Okay, so
because of its formations.
Okay, so the formations look like something that I'm not going to say on camera, but as we were driving through Kodachrome, my parents were in the car and my kids were in the car, and I was giving Matt a little side eye, like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And I couldn't mention anything because of the company I was in, but an interesting park with some interesting rock formations. Yes.
Cheryl's very mature. Okay, next mistake is correcting us on how we say Zion. So
okay,
we get this comment on YouTube quite a bit. As you notice, we put the emphasis Zion, not Zion, like most outsiders. So Utahns, this is how we say it, Zion.
And my take on this is that Zion National Park is in our state, so the way the locals say it is the correct way.
Okay, the next mistake is underestimating the elevation. So we mentioned this is a desert and it's really high. You might think that it's low. You might not realize how high it is. This area was all, again, part of that grand staircase. Once under a seabed, that's why it's sandstone, and then it got pushed upwards. And it's actually surprisingly high. Like Bryce Canyon, I think it's the highest national park in Utah. It gets up around 9,000 to 10,000 feet, which is higher than Yellowstone even. That means it has a winter, it has snow, like we've been there in the winter before and hiked in the snow, which is super pretty. You're going to get snow in all these parks actually in the middle of winter, so they get cold.
Okay, the next mistake is getting lost on the trails in Utah. So unlike a lot of these forested areas where the trail is really defined, a lot of times when you hike in the desert, you're on the slick rock, which is just stone, or since there's not a lot of vegetation, it's hard to see the trail. And so there's little tricks that as locals know of how to follow these trails. And one is you look for these stacks of rocks called cairns. And how the rule works is if you are at a cairn, you should be able to see the next cairn from where you're standing, and that will let you know where to hike next.
All right, next mistake is not getting reservations for activities.
The very famous Angel's Landing, which offers some of the best views of the park. And You can actually hike the first 2 miles of Angel's Landing without a permit at all, and it takes you to Scouts Lookout where you can see some great views. But if you really have that adventure bug in you, you need the permit to climb that last half mile to Fogspot. And that's where you are holding onto chains, and there are 1,000-foot drop-offs on both sides. This is one they have a lottery for. And so you can enter that a few months before. Just check the park's website so you know when these things are opening up, because I don't want to give you times and be wrong if they change their thing. Next thing we want you to know is just because Utah is a desert does not mean it's a food desert. Okay, there's not any of these national parks that we recommend getting a meal in. In fact, there's not even anywhere to eat in Arches and Canyonlands, but there are plenty of great places to eat. It's outside the parks in the gateway towns.
Yes, something crazy draws people, some of these really, really good chefs to southern Utah, to some of these just tiny, tiny little towns. On the east side of Zion National Park is a place called the Thunderbird Restaurant. It's been there for a long time, and it's home of the homemade pies. And they have a woman on the billboard there begging you to get in there and see who's making these pies.
The real home is an old lady, a really sweet old lady. I think her name's Vern, but the pies are really good.
Yeah, you gotta go to the homemade pies there. There's a little town in the middle of Utah. I'm saying it's so remote. It's called Boulder, Utah. I mean, it's just so far out there. It's crazy. And yet this town has 3 world-class restaurants in it. The one that we've been to is called the Burr Trail Grill. It's just delicious. Like the French dip is amazing. Baby. Yeah, that place is really good. We go there every time.
And then my very favorite, also outside of Arches and Canyonlands, is in Moab, and that's Pasta J's. I love to do some good hiking during the day and have a yummy pasta dinner at night, and Pasta J's is yummy.
Now, if you want to do this Utah road trip, check out our video all about how to do it, our trip planner video. It's going to walk you through how to do it and help you out. Thanks for watching.